Good morning. Can I invite our speakers up to the stage, please? It's free seating, so let's see how this goes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Steven Blokmans. I'm Associate Senior Research Fellow here at SEPS, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the first public event of this new academic year, where we thought it was focusing on foreign policy, external action of the European Union, particularly important to start in a Canada country that has seen quite a bit of turmoil over the last weeks, months, years. And things are getting to a boil, it seems, in Serbia. We have seen, Serbia is no stranger to democratic protests. It has a long tradition, so to speak, since in recent history, at least since the 1990s. There were regular mass protests against the regime of Slobodan Milosevic, which eventually led to his toppling in October 2000. More recently, we have seen mass protests against his former Minister of Information, the current president of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, in mass form since 2022 over violence which was propagated by the government, as it was then seen by demonstrators who took to the streets after a mass shooting at a school that spilled over into mass protests over environmental concerns, with a hand of the European Union as well in negotiating access to critical raw materials, lithium in particular, in an environmentally protected zone, spilling over into elections, parliamentary and Belgrade municipal elections, which were deemed fraudulent by many at the end of 2023, spilling over or re-dynamized with mass protests, even bigger in scale, in 2024 after the collapse of a canopy, Chinese-built canopy of the Novi Sad railway station, which killed 16 people and which has now transformed in a student-led protest that is morphing many of the grievances that had been formally been expressed into an opposition, mass, anti-government, anti-system demonstration, which has galvanized society more and more. Where we've seen also increased violence against those protests taking place, first isolated, then more structured in nature. We saw the quite innovative use of an acoustic weapon at one point. We see now more traditional dumb type of riot police beating up people in the streets. And so this raises the question, of course, where the country is going. I should note also that in all of these protests, the recent ones, there are hardly any EU flags, no EU flags, no EU mantra that is providing spirit to the demonstrations, contrary to what we've seen, for example, in Georgia. And so the role of the European Union should be put into question in this respect as well. We've seen the occasional visits, we've seen the occasional statements, modest in nature, if I express myself diplomatically, which of course is breathing more resentment, both on the side of the student-led protests, which have, as I said, taken up much of societal support already, but also increasingly in the public eye among European citizens in our own media. We've seen op-eds being published by major international newspapers saying that it would perhaps be time for Europe in general to take its hands or its embrace from Mr. Vučić. We've seen letters being sent by Mr. Vučić in response. We are a democratic state, we have European credentials, etc. To help us make sense of it all, we have, I think, 3 people who are extremely well positioned to give us their own take. We have 2 leaders from opposition parties, Mr. Zdravko Ponoš here, who is president of Srce, if I pronounce that correctly, the Serbian Centar or Serbian Center Party, slightly to the right of the center, former presidential candidate who scored well 700,000 votes, former general and chief of the general staff of the armed forces of Serbia in the 2000s. Very happy to have you here, sir. We have Borko Stefanovic, who is, I think, currently deputy president of, now you have to help me, Party of Freedom and Justice, which translates in Serbian as, or abbreviates as? Right, okay. And I know that there's many Serbian speakers in the room. So, so left of center. And we have, last but certainly not least, Dragana Đurica, who's currently president of the European Movement in Serbia, but also board member of European Movement International. Worked, of course, also previously at the Regional Cooperation Council in Sarajevo, and who brings an independent view on the matters at hand. You may ask, why didn't we have any student leaders on stage? After all, they are pushing the protests. Yes, we would have liked to, indeed. This came up organically, and we didn't want to shy away from having them. Perhaps they're representatives of them in the room, I don't know. But it would be good, you know, to hear from you if you are. One of the main questions, of course, that will animate discussions is how smaller opposition parties with established programs, etc., can cooperate, or should, or not, with the student list, which is gradually forming around snap elections, which may be held this year, which may be held next year, in any case ahead of the general scheduled elections, which are much further down the line. So to discuss the internal state of affairs in Serbia, but in particular also the relations to the European Union, I would like to invite first Mr. Ponoš to offer some first Borko Stefanovic to offer some opening remarks.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Thanks a lot for the invitation, and we're always happy to be here to represent our views, which is, of course, almost impossible in Serbia, especially in the media, that are absolutely -2 independent TV stations under regime control. And of course, it's challenging to talk about European path and prospect of Serbia in Brussels, because it seems to me that it's like a Groundhog Day. So basically, we always come here and say, well, yeah, there is a path, imaginary path, and we believe in something that is like a more and more becoming like a Camelot, you know, shining castle on the hill. And basically, most people in the Western Balkans don't believe that this hill and this castle is reachable right now. There is, as you know, a mixture of disappointment and fatigue on both sides. So in Serbia, as you know, we have a major crisis, political security crisis, but also economic crisis that is developing for almost a year now. And I think that some things came out as conclusions One is that the government of Serbia and Aleksandar Vučić are not trying and will not try to do anything in bringing Serbia to European Union membership. What they've been doing so far is just giving a lip service to your representatives, the bureaucrats from this wonderful city. And the second thing is that he's ready to go even further in the spiral of violence, which is really dangerous in Serbia. So he will do everything and less than everything to stay in power no matter what. So it means that he will continue with this recruitment of the party thugs, criminals, also criminals, members of organized crime gang groups. He will continue to pressure employees in public sector and lower and mid-level party officials to come to every rally. And as you know, in Serbia, we have rally every day. So it lasts for a long time now. And they will continue to provoke violence with the police that is absolutely, practically, and theoretically in every manner in the position to defend the regime only. So it means when you have a rally, you have students, citizens, members of opposition parties. We're always together in every gathering in Serbia. You have police cordons in front of us who are not defending people from violence and attacks, but they're defending thugs, members of organized crime, and party officials who are on the other side. So this is how it looks, just for you to imagine the situation. And he will continue to provoke violence. He will try everything he can to avoid elections, because right now the numbers are such that Mr. Vučić and his party, especially his party, is declining. He will continue to produce a lot of media propaganda, and he will continue to produce false surveys and polls concerning the, concerning the ratings of the parties and the student movement. And we have something else which is new, and that is that the student movement now is becoming like a political force in Serbia. It's not only a movement, it's not only a grassroots reaction, it's actually becoming a political structure. So we as the opposition are always there. We support the protests in Serbia, and we will support snap elections as soon as possible. But what we, especially we from Party of Freedom and Justice, are proposing is that we have some sort of a European mediation. This is our proposal, that someone should come in order to help us to reach agreement concerning something which we proposed not long ago, a technical government of 100 days, like in North Macedonia. And we need that because we need to bring people for position of Minister of Police, Minister of Public Administration and Social Welfare, which are not members of the ruling party and also not members of the opposition. This is what is really important. So it's not about us entering technical government. It's about somebody who is an expert and who is moral enough and undoubted figure to take care of these portfolios for 100 days. Why? Because we believe that we can suppress this repression, buying of votes, blackmails concerning the voters, and also violence and also misuse of the register of the voters performed by Mr. Vučić for 13 years now. If we don't have that, we will have the same conditions with the non-conditions. I'm always proud to say this in Brussels and in any other place in the West. What we have in Serbia are rigged elections, elections with a complete control of the, almost complete control of the media sector, full control of the flow of money, and also buying an overall huge practice of buying of votes, bringing voters from different parts of Serbia to vote in local elections where they don't live, and bringing also voters from Bosnia, meaning Republika Srpska, to vote, let's say, in Belgrade local elections. This is our reality. This is what we talk about when we talk about elections. These are not really elections. So it's really important to understand. And I will conclude this introductory with the hope that we will continue and with the hope that there will be questions and comments from you, because it might be more interesting, that European Union and its role in the whole of this process is pretty much the same what we had in the last 13 years, which is the top of their statements is being concerned. So this is the top what they can say. And for us who've been fighting for European Serbia for too many years now, we all got gray and old. I have to say that this is highly disappointing, that this is cynical, this is hypocrisy. And actually, we are tired of saying this over and over again. So I speak on behalf of my party, but I can also say that I speak for the most people in Serbia who see transactional relationship between Brussels and Vučić for too long. They believe that when you have European Commission officials coming to Belgrade and proposing us, quote, and I will not say, of course, who told me this, and many people did, you should talk with Vučić about reforms in your country concerning the acquis, concerning the chapters, concerning the clusters, because your talks with him on these things and implementation of these reforms will remove the crisis in your country. So, of course, you can see how it sounds. Without any cynicism, I can tell you that for me, this is like a fairy tale and unicorns running around me, and I can see them for too long. I think that European Union, especially European Commission, because European Parliament was and is quite vocal in criticizing with right wording what is happening in Serbia. What European Commission is not doing, and I have to use this opportunity to say, is actually they believe without any, innuendos, they believe that if we are constructive enough towards Vučić, he will not go too much to Moscow and to the east politically, security-wise. So I always tell them as a joke, so you're telling me if you're numb concerning crisis in Serbia, Vučić will not speak with Maduro for 25 minutes, he will speak for 12 minutes, and he will not go to the Red Square for 3 days, he might go for a day and a half, and by the way, he's in Beijing right now with the best possible crew for him and for his voters, and you can see that still, with the great sadness, I have to say, and disappointment, we don't hear anything from the European Commission. So our job as the opposition in Serbia, among other things, is not only to wake up public opinion and people who understand what's going on in the soft belly of Europe. We are not talking, with all due respect, about some remote countries. And when I saw, when you said Georgia and European flags in Georgia, I knew what would happen. I knew what would happen. They would be abandoned in there because, we don't want to piss out, Georgian government because, hey, they might go even further to Moscow. And look the result. This is exactly what is happening in Serbia, maybe in a different way, but this is what we have. We have a growing dictatorship, autocratic system in which he believes that he can continue with the repression and control of the media, staying in power no matter what, selling Serbian left and right. I think it's the high time, it's the high noon of our political reality for European Union finally to start talking what they see and what they realize what is happening in front of their eyes, because this is not only Serbian problem. This is also about the region, and this is about you. Because if you lose your position, your morality, if you lose everything of values on which you stand on, you will lose practically everything. There are no divisions and big army groups in the European Union, but what you have are values on which you stand on. And right now we have discrepancy, because what you've been preaching, you're hugging a guy that is a symbol of everything opposite on which you've been standing on. So there is no even this thin cloud on which you were built for. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stefanovic. Can I ask you for one clarification? Early on in your introductory remarks, you said we would like to see a form of mediation happening on the side of, I don't know, a European family, whatever it may consist of. Yeah. But later in your remarks, you mentioned that the European Commission, in fact, suggested that you work together, supposedly in a process which is governed by the European Commission. So where does your mediation proposal differ from what the Commission has said?
Well, we need to know what we are trying to achieve here, because the mediation could bring Serbia to the only rational exit out of this situation. And we cannot speak with Vučić directly. No one can in Serbia, because that train has gone. It's gone for a long time now. You cannot speak with a person who is beating up the students and citizens and with indiscriminatory arrests, who is calling us terrorists, not only us, but also the students, with a person who is saying that this is a colored revolution and that actually we are all puppets of the West. He's insulting his own people, but he's also insulting you. When I say you,
so
sorry
to interrupt.
So what we need
an intermediate
of talks concerning the elections that should be happening as soon as possible.
So a shuttle, form of shuttle
yeah,
diplomacy.
Exactly.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Ponos, please. No, it's okay.
Thank you. For beginning, I would say that it would be very useful if we have a few more people on podium to discuss situation in Serbia, let's say representative from government, because we are not able to discuss this issue with them directly, even in Belgrade. It would be great, as you mentioned, that we have somebody from students' movement, because our communication is not fruitful enough at the moment. I believe it's going to change. And finally, it would be great if we have somebody from European Commission. For them, it would be probably not so complicated to come here. As far in the room, we know. So, but there's difference. So, as far as I know, they were invited to participate in this discussion, but probably they are tired of holiday. So, next time.
It's an opportunity to speak up.
Yeah. I believe that's obvious from everything you know and from things that Borko mentioned, that Serbia is rapidly sliding off the cliff, which means in direction completely opposite of Europe. When you listen to President Vučić, he usually says that Serbia is on European path, and I must admit I agree with him. But actually Serbia is driving in opposite direction. That Serbia is on European path, that's not one issue, but Serbia is, in best case scenario, stuck for many years, actually, since SNS and President Vučić are on power in Serbia. If things are left alone, Serbia will fall down from that cliff, for sure. Developments are accelerating fast, and we have negative experience if things are left aside as it was done in our region 30 years ago. We have experienced how it works. And there are good reasons to remember how it works when things are left alone. Now, finally, we have a man who is a strong man in Serbia, who used to be Milosevic Minister of Propaganda. So there is a kind of continuity. So that gives us right to take some, to remember how it works with people like them. Serbia is able to influence situation in region and to influence regional dynamics, both in positive and negative side. We have that experience again. 30 years ago, we know how it was. Now, Serbia has the same capacity. Probably not as huge in that scale as it used to be, but Serbia has potential to influence situation in the region. I'll try to explain why I think that if situation is not somehow moderated or influenced from Europeans, that it will continue to drive in a quite dangerous direction. It's something like diagnosis. Director of police forces in Serbia mentioned recently that since November 1st of last year, when the railway station collapsed, there was something like 3,000 rallies or protests in Serbia. Few months initially they were peaceful and police forces were not so aggressive. On March 15, when there was something like more than 300,000 people on the street of Belgrade. Police used sonic weapons. And they decided to say, no, it is not true. They were even asking for clarification and for a stamp that that was not sonic weapon from Russian FSB. They got paper, a kind of paper that sonic weapon was not used. After that, police forces are much more aggressive on Belgrade streets, and situation is quite different. So there was no holiday this summer in Belgrade. Students were there. They were on the street all the time. Not only students. Vučić is tightening control. Situation is not getting any closer to be relaxed. It's much more complicated on a daily basis. He's pressuring not only students. Actually, he openly says that he doesn't like state universities, and Belgrade University is still one of very high ranked on Shanghai list still. And we have that tradition that state universities are much better than private universities in Serbia. And he said that he's going to destroy state universities in order to have private universities. So professors are not receiving salaries regularly. Actually, for a few months, they did not receive salary. I'm talking about university professors. Professors on high schools are under strong pressure for months. Many of them were fired because they were supporting children on the street. When we are talking about police repression on the street, it's not only about uniformed police forces. Now we have police dressed in civilian clothes without any visible credentials that they belong to police forces. And police forces are sometimes used as protectors of criminal gangs who are beating students on the street. Actually, special police unit, which has main role to protect state officials and foreign delegations, is used for that. So it is not actually somebody that you can see nowhere else in Europe, as far as I know. Our new ministers for culture and information and the minister for education, they are very unusual people, I would say. Actually, Minister of Education says openly that he will work to destroy education as we have at the moment. So that's something that it is for books, so you cannot find it somewhere else. Vučić knows that he doesn't enjoy strong public support in Serbia anymore, and he relies on foreign support at the moment. At the same time, he realized that that support is not coming from Berlin as it used to be before. Support that he was counting on from Paris is not so strong. His project of buying a very expensive fighting jet from Macron didn't bring that kind of political support, and now he is trying to gain that support from Trump administration via channel through Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. I don't know how it's going to be fruitful, but it's obvious that he is giving up from Europe at the moment. He doesn't count on European support. I even don't think that his warm relations with Putin is something that is really happening. It's for domestic consumption, for was his supporter in Serbia. He knows that it cannot be so productive, basically. At the moment, he is not man who is able to deliver anything for Europe. Even he is not trying, actually. But it is important that Europeans realize that he cannot deliver. If he got support for delivering things about Kosovo, he delivers more or less everything that he promised. Maybe Kurti is somebody who didn't deliver. About lithium, that game is over. He's not able to deliver. I know that for many influential Europeans, Serbian lithium is much more important than democracy in Serbia. That's life. But it's important for them to realize that that game is over. Vučić is not able to deliver that lithium. They shouldn't count on him anymore.
Why? Sorry.
because of public pressure. It's not only about environmental reasons and because people were very scary about that. It was not properly explained, and there was worry that it was about corruption and many other things. Now he is so unpopular, and everything that he is doing in Serbia is under public scrutiny. And now it's not about having protest against that. That's about fighting on the street against it. And now when we have students already for 10 months on the street, and not only students, but ordinary people, they are not ready to be peaceful anymore. So that's challenging, even if we try to organize elections now, tomorrow, as students are asking. It's going to be challenging because they are not, they don't think that it's problem to be beaten by police anymore. They're ready to fight. Situation is changing rapidly, and that's problem. That's the reason why, as Borko mentioned, it would be right time for Europeans to be engaged, not just to observe. What does it mean to engage? As he said, a kind of moderation, not only as there was right time maybe a year ago to think about transitional government, which would take a year and a half and things like that. At that time when I proposed that, and after that all opposition had similar or joint view that we need transitional government, Vučić rejected immediately. Now there is no public appetite to have it. Students says, no, we don't need transitional government. It will take too long. It's about giving him oxygen. No, we need elections tomorrow. When we were proposing that technical government, it means 100 days, just to prepare elections, to have just few ministries like in Northern Macedonia under control of somebody who is not government, opposition or experts or whoever, or civil sector. It means Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Justice, Minister of State Administration, which it says no. Now even students says no. Why? We don't have time. They said we don't have 100 days. So that's my illustration that situation is moving too fast and becoming too dangerous. It would be enough for beginning, Gabriel.
Thank you very much. We move on to Ms. Đurića, whom I said, takes a bit of an outsider perspective to the politics, but is, of course, a close observer. So we look forward to your remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Blockmans, and thank you, CEPS, for this opportunity. It is my pleasure to greet you also on behalf of the European movement in Serbia, as we are the civic organization, non-partisan organization defending the European future of our country. I here defend the stand that if we were members of the European Union or any closer to it, we wouldn't be in such situation. We perhaps wouldn't be in a perfect situation given the challenges that the European Union is facing, but we certainly would not be in such a dire situation which is happening right now. You have heard about what is happening in the country for the past not only months but also years, and this is something that is also reflected in a way in the European path in Serbia, from which our country has unfortunately drifted off significantly. We are a candidate since 2012. From 2014, we are negotiating, and for the past 4 years, practically no movements in European integrations whatsoever. No new open chapters, no new open clusters, nothing. And even the ones that have been opened previously have noticed some deteriorations, and this is something which is going on in parallel to political and social situation and economic situation in the country. So for us, the enlargement is on the table, but mostly in rhetoric or in the regime's legitimacy in front of the West partners, and also for the funding purposes. But in substantial changes that it's supposed to bring in the country, this unfortunately remains elusive. So we have not only the problem of not catching up with the reforms, of not adopting the necessary reforms, but also in their implementations and in the changes they're supposed to bring on the ground. Sometimes even even we have examples of the adopted reforms being countered with legitimate ways of bypassing them. One of the examples is, I will just give it to you a few ones, the public procurement, where we are the only country in Europe which has a special legislation on avoiding the public procurement for investments and agreements of special intention, so to say, for large projects. And we also have a situation that adding up to destroying the education system, that the scientific research has been practically censored in the past months, which is also countering the chapters on education in the EU negotiation process. And by doing so, this has brought these chapters that were closed to the very beginning. So these are just few examples of what is happening, and the societal unrest that we see ignited by a terrible tragedy is actually reflecting all of these problems that have been noted before. And the paradox of the situation is that the students and citizens who are demanding the values and demanding the standards that are promoted by the European Union are not recognized among the society as the EU values. Some of the reasons for that are on the narrative that the students have grown up for the past decade and a half almost, where the EU and the benefits of joining the EU and the effects on the lives of the citizens are not presented properly in the public narrative in the country through the media, which with national broadcasting license, we have very little information on the EU, mostly technical, non-understandable for regular citizens and young people and so on. And we also have the situation of the European funds being used for political promotion instead of promotion of the EU. Since the student protest, we had very weak reactions from the EU institutions. Some of them were brave enough to step out of the Brussels comfort zone, such as the European Economic and Social Committee, who has recognized the demands of the students and the citizens as the EU's demands and the EU's values. We also had the situation of Euro parliamentarians who have been voicing out this situation very loudly. And we also had the situation of the visit of Commissioner for Enlargement, Mrs. Kos, who has recognized the student demands as the European demands. Everything which is said in the protest, in a way, is also written in the European Commission reports that you see every year, but somehow go under the radar. However, the top of the political establishment in Brussels remains distant and cautious, which has come to the point of irritating the citizens of Serbia and not recognizing the EU as its partner, which is a terrible situation. So right now, we don't have the EU membership as a priority, not only among the political elite, the regime right now, but also among the citizens. And this is a double loss, everything in a package which is happening. It's a loss for Serbia as a country. It's also a loss for the EU. If the EU loses this generation right now, it's going to lose the generation which is supposed to anchor the European integration process. Now, the civil society still remains as sort of a gatekeeper of these values and trying to fill in the holes, but our voice is not strong enough. We are facing a shrinking space for the civil society. We are facing intimidation, non-recognition, and all kinds of pressures that you can imagine. And right now, what is also important to notice is that this anti-EU sentiment among the youth people in Serbia is not their anti-European mentality. It's actually the disillusionment in the process and in all of the situations that have been happening. We have, in the European movement in Serbia, we have done a research in the past year. We are talking to the citizens a lot, and we see a huge generational gap in sentiment towards the EU. For an example, the midlife generation, let's say between 45 and 60 years of age, is more inclined to be pro-EU oriented, whereas the younger generation is in majority opposed to the EU membership. The reasons were aforesaid, and what I can say, belonging to this midlife generation, from the personal experience, I can say that this generation may be more inclined towards the EU because we remember the 90s, we remember the times of isolation from our neighbors, from our continent, and from the environment that we belong to in every possible way, historically, naturally, culturally, politically, however you wish to call it. And another paradox is that students and citizens who demand the European values just do not call them that way because they do not see the EU, the top EU institutions defending them. When we ask them, what would you potentially see as benefits of EU integration, regardless of their sentiment towards this matter, they see democratic institutions, less corruption, and more opportunities for youth. So I can say that there is this sort of almost a cognitive dissonance about what the EU brings, what the EU is about, what kind of benefits it brings to the citizens. But they don't see them achievable right now because we have strayed off from the EU path, and the media and the public narrative about it is very confusing. We have several layers of narrative by the regime. One is for the Western partners, we are on the EU path. One is for the citizens, the EU doesn't want us. Or even the extreme ones, like previously mentioned, that the EU that the European countries are actually promoting and influencing to what is called by the regime the colored revolution. And of course, the third type of a narrative for the Eastern partners like Russia and China. So we see a very big problem that the EU remains hesitant. The EU, top EU political institutions remain still hesitant. But I believe that there is a growing pressure in the EU itself, as we see right now a media lineup in the European Union about the situation in Serbia. So I'm afraid that the institutions are very soon going to have more and more questions from their own citizens about what they're defending in the enlargement countries. Also, what is very important to notice right now, and this is why I stress that the EU should not lose the citizens of Serbia, especially this younger generation right now, is that a year ago, when research on student opinion came out, majority of the students and majority of the youth were more in favor of having a strong leader instead of a democratic system. 2/3 were for a strong leader and the minority for a democratic institution. Now, a year afterwards and after the protest cycle, we have a completely the opposite situation. 70% of the youth now is in favor of democratic institutions, and minority is opting, very insignificant minority is opting for a strong leader. This is the momentum that I believe that Europe should not lose in Serbia, and should not lose the generation, as I say again, should anchor the integration process. So I will stop here, and we'll be happy to answer all your questions during the discussion.
Thank you very much, all three of you. I know there's a lot of firepower in the room, and I would like to get yourselves ready to ask any questions to our speakers. Try and catch my eye. I will, while you think of your questions, ask one question for the two politicians on the panel. The electoral threshold for parliamentary elections is 3%, I believe, still in Serbia. According to various opinion polls, your individual parties might have difficulties reaching that threshold, but even if they do, they will be rather small in and of themselves, especially if elections are being held tomorrow or even at Christmas, as seems to be a rumor going around. So my question is, if the student list, which is still being formed, is able to attract maybe not a majority of votes, but at least a considerable amount of it, then your own backers would be needed in order to pass to a simple majority, passing the 50% threshold. So my question is an obvious one. How do you align with the student list? With yourselves and with the student list.
Let me say for the beginning that we need not one election in Serbia, we need 2 elections in Serbia. And I'm talking in different time period. Why? But because on the first elections we are talking about removing this regime. And whatever government will be formed after that elections, it's not going to stay for 4 years for sure, because everything that brings us together is about fighting this regime. It's about moving as much as it could be done a normal political landscape in order to have normal political game and competition. So in order to win this first election, I believe that we need elections. We have to ask elections, all elections at the same time, not only parliamentary elections, but local elections and presidential elections, because it's about changing system completely. In order to be able to do that, we have to work together. And from inside, there are a few things that could be done. One of them is try to protect everything that Vučić is trying to destroy, free media. At the moment, he is trying to broken few remaining free media in Serbia, belonging to media, how they call it, United Media Group. There was a change in ownership at the moment, but they are trying to survive. A lot depends on them, having in mind that state-owned media are not on our disposal. Let's say nobody from our party, who is a parliamentary party already for 2 years, didn't have a chance to appear on state television. Our appearance there was 0 seconds in 2 years. So it works like that. So protecting media as much as we can at the moment is priority. Opposition is fighting as much as we can. His pressure on university, I already mentioned, pressure on civil society. So all of us have to try to work together as we are doing at the moment on the having better election conditions, working together with ODIHR, because there is no possibility to work directly with government. In order to achieve results, as I said, on that first elections, our communication with students should be much more productive, and our cooperation inside opposition groupings should be much more productive. I admit to that. So we have constructive dialogue, but it is time that we have to do much more than just dialogue. We have to organize, to be properly organized to win that battle and to be responsible partners. It means that it is not enough just to encourage students to fight, as some people from opposition camps are doing. We are talking about generations that already lost 3 school years, actually. First school years because of COVID, that was similar across the Europe. Second, it was after a shooting in elementary school Ribnikar in Belgrade. Third year, that was this one because of protest in Serbia. If they lose one more year, we are losing too much. Who is going to build up Serbia after removing Vučić? We are losing possibility for that generations to be properly educated. So instead of supporting them, encouraging them to fight, to sacrifice, everybody has to do its part of the job. We have to understand that sometimes they are fighting this battle just by heart, not by brain. We have to work much more together. So it would be great, actually, everybody who is somebody from opposition side was proposing that we work together. there is not that appetite on students' list at the moment, even though there is no something formally on the student side. There is not formal structure. You don't know who are you talking with at the moment because there is no clear structure. If there is no appetite to have joint forces, at least we have to have discussion how to properly organize forces to not to have friendly fire. That's possible, and we can work on that. Actually, I believe that on opposition side, everybody is ready for that. I believe that once when you have a clear structure on student side, that's going to be possible. If we go to that first elections and if we don't win and expectations are high among people on the street, it would be very, very difficult to gain these emotions again after that. When we are talking about second elections after that, so that government, as I said, cannot survive for 4 years because the role of that government is just to make landscape normal for political life. On that second elections, there will be different groupings according to ideology, to readiness for cooperation. At the moment, we are examples that we can work together even though we are striving in different ideological directions. So we are trying to make closer links with EPP. SPP party is trying to, they are already more successful in having better relations with PES groupings.
We are members, yeah.
Yeah. So that shows that we can work together, not only as parties as a whole, but even in building infrastructure in Serbia.
Mr. Stefanovic, to add in.
I think it's pretty clear that if there is no united front, which doesn't mean one list on parliamentary elections, we have proportional systems, so that's why I'm saying list. Then the possibility to change government and actually to get out of this situation in a normal, peaceful, semi-democratic way, as much as we can in Serbia, is seriously declining. So I agree with Zdravko, of course, he said it. And I don't think that, you know, the role of, let's call it traditional parties, it's always there because there is a clear policy and we tell our people what we want to do with our economy, our taxes, EU path of Serbia, regional cooperation, Kosovo. You know, we have policies and answers to those questions. Right now, these are not topics in our country because right now people are really polarized and Vučić is using this polarization to make it even further deeper rift between us in our society. So we will continue to promote policies and solutions, but also we will continue to, and we will do everything we can to make the higher level of coordination and unity inside, let's call it like a, it's not opposition, but it's like a opposition bloc of Serbia. It's not only parties, of course. So we believe that that's the only way out of this situation. And certainly when you see that the alternative, because I like actually the topic of this panel, of your panel, because is there an alternative for EU membership prospects of Serbia and the region, I have to say. Yes, there is alternative, but the alternative is grim. It's actually terrible. So I will put it this way, really, really on a ground level. What Vučić and his cronies, which is basically junta, because he invented the National Security Council as a body that is not inside of the law or constitution in a way that actually they tell you what to do. They're telling courts and institutions of Serbia what to do, let's say concerning Dodik situation in Bosnia. It's a coup. We have to understand, and he's doing this every day. Nobody pays attention. We have the stream of Brussels people coming in. They don't know that they're talking to a guy that is practically, not formally, brought inside a junta in our system. They sit together, you know, pals from business and party, and they make decisions. Who are you to make decisions? Who are you to instruct anybody to do this or that? You do this in the parliament, or you do this at the cabinet session of the government. How can you do this? He can. So alternative is to make something what, and I will be really blunt here, what Orban and Fico are dreaming about, but they are not crazy enough to do it, actually to step out. So alternative is, hey, I'm in your neighborhood, I'm an oasis of organized crime, corruption, violence, repression, lack of freedom of the media, and of course with sacked elections. And I'm in your neighborhood doing business with you. So let's do business. Let's talk about economy. Don't talk about these small, unimportant things like freedom, free elections, rule of law. Who cares about this? This is the project. And that's why I don't like to call them right-wing or whatever. This is not ideological. This is criminal. They want to make, entities that are using European money and nothing else. They're doing business, and who cares, what I do inside of my own entity, inside of my fiefdom. Okay, so this is what they're trying to do. He's living a dream of some of the people inside of the EU who, you understand, who are promoting this trend. That's why I apologize. I wanted to tackle the title of the panel. This is what they're trying to promote. This is the model. We still have talks. We still have people from the Commission, Mr. Kopman, coming, Marta Kos. We have people coming in, trying to give some decent statements, and that's it. Nothing changes. This is a mockery, seriously. And there is one problem, maybe a small problem for them. We will not accept it. People will not take it. So that's it. You can play the play. You can give a nice show with all of these colorful televisions which you control, but actually people will not take it. That's the problem. You need to take into account what people want. And people don't want to live in a criminal, isolated entities. They want to live in Europe. And we will make sure, all of us together, that we do, because we are not going to the EU. We are coming back home. This is where we belong, and this is where we started. We are coming home. We are not going. I don't like enlargement. I like, let's say, gathering, coming back together to the family table. Why are we off the table in the first place? It's insulting. Thank you.
I know some of you want to come in. Dragana, still as an observer, you look at both the form of elections, as they have been criticized here on the panel, unfree, undemocratic. And yet, this type of formula that prevails in order to try and reach to a 50% majority, in a way, within that rigged system. Is it at all possible? And if it isn't, how can the Republic be reset?
Thank you. Well, I wouldn't repeat what was already said, but what I would like to add is that the whole pro-democratic bloc, and I mean everybody there, should move from mere resistance one step beyond into a program and into, how would I call it, credible reforms with accountability and responsibility that will be offered to the citizens. I like that you use the word reset, as we here in the European movement have started one process which was actually inspired by Professor Lopandic, who is here with us today. We call it Resetting the Republic. And we are doing this, I would just like to mention, not as a part of any project. Nobody is financing it. We just have a good crew of independent people with strong minds and strong experience and strong intellect who can contribute by proposing exactly what needs to be done in short, medium, and long term for each of the political, social, and economic areas in the country. We started off with foreign policy. We published the proposal how to reset the foreign policy in terms of bringing it back to the European path, but we also include on how to deal with the big powers and other players in the global arena. Maybe later in discussion, Professor Lopandic can share a few words on it. And now we're moving into the most likely education system next, and then moving on to the other areas. So what we need is a strong and accountable set of reforms appealing to the citizens, and also what is important to say, to be put in an understandable way for the Gen Z, which has their own particular way of communicating, and since they're more inclined towards the running the show, sometimes you have to adapt a narrative for them to be understood.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Who would like to come in at this point from the audience? Okay, I'll collect a few. I'll start with a lady in the back, and then I'll work my way through the room.
Hi.
Introduce yourself.
Eloise. I work for the Parliament magazine. I want to ask...
Sorry, I didn't get it.
I work for the Parliament magazine here in Brussels. I have a question regarding the repression of the media in Serbia. So there were reports from the OCCRP last week of leaked phone calls between CEOs of Telecom Serbia and United Group discussing ways to weaken N1, which has sort of over the last year or so provided a platform for opposition voices amid student protests. How concerning do you find this? Because I think without N1, if I'm correct in saying, your impartial media will presumably rest solely with smaller independent outlets.
Thank you very much. There's a gentleman here.
Thank you very much. Matija Lojpur from the College of Europe. My question is, this was touched upon a bit, but given the level of absolute degradation of institutions and state capture that we have in Serbia, what do you think needs to be done, maybe more in the medium term? So after elections, once there's a truly, what can be considered a truly pro-European government in Serbia, what could be done to sort of, as was said, reset the institutions? What are the most urgent steps that need to be taken? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And here up front, our own Michael Emerson.
Thank you. Michael Emerson, SEPS. I have an ABC constitutional question that hasn't been spoken of. If there are, in a snap election or a regular election, the opposition parties gained the majority, what would this mean for the presidency, Vučić? Would you be in a French Macron type situation, or would it be different?
And the consequences of that, obviously. Anyone else in this round? Please, lady there.
Thank you. I am Simone. I work at the European Commission, so I've heard everything that you've said. And
DG?
DG, Nest, enlargement. So I'm also from the right DG, and that's why I'm here, to hear what you have to say, although I'm not here to repeat the positions that you very well know of my institution. I think what is interesting is between what opposition leaders are saying and what civil society representative in the face of Ms. Đurić is saying is interesting to me is how do we raise back the value of being part of the European Union? You mentioned belonging there, being part of it. Ms. Đurić was saying we are losing support, we are losing a generation, and unfortunately the polls that we carry out locally also give testimony to that. So how can the political leadership and civil society and the European Commission, I would say, join forces to raise the profile of the European project as such amidst the national crisis that is taking place? How can the Union path become relevant again? And here I would be interested in more beyond the bureaucratic explanation of where we are in the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, 4 questions. Who would like to?
Yeah, thank you. First, about the day after. I believe that it is still more important what is day before. Actually, there are many people on the streets of Serbia who don't have even appetite at the moment to talk about day after. They are focused on day before. And I already said what should be done from our side the day before. Working together, removing pressure from school kids, students, university professors, sharing burden in whole society in order to change things. What could be done from outside, from EU? For beginning, Vučić should not be accepted as a normal democratic leader because he is not. Talking in pictures, actually, he is like people who like to drink, and he's beating his wife and his children when he come home. Now, children are growing up and they don't accept it anymore. They are ready to fight back. What we are expecting from neighbors, don't invite him to the table and don't buy him drink. It would be helpful at the moment. That's something that we expect from Europeans, including capitals and Brussels administration. It's not healing when Ursula von der Leyen came to Belgrade and said to him publicly on press conference, "Dear Alexander." So it's like, let's go to drink together, even though she knows that she's a drinker and he's beating his wife and his children. Regarding media, it is more than important that N1 survives. Having in mind that a kind of private property, you never know what's going to be future. Free journalists are going to survive. Many of them survived already once upon a time, 30 years ago. That's the same kind of people. They will survive, but will take time. Of course, many people are moving from TV to internet, but still, TV stations are very influential. It would be of critical importance that from EU side, there is a close monitoring what BC Partners is doing in Serbia. It would be helpful for sure. What should be done day after? Many people should be arrested. It would be healing in our society. Some of parties should be forbidden immediately. We don't need 4 years for that. If we don't change them in 3 months, they are going to change us. That's something that should be done. We have experience. We made mistakes in 2000. We didn't arrest them, and they killed Đinđić. That's enough from my side.
Should I say something, please?
Well, it's Zdravko already covered pretty much everything. I would add concerning attacks on N1 and Nova S. I think it's appalling, and basically I'm happy to say that this case brought out further attention in European media circles and in your public, and an outcry was heard in Serbia. So this is, it has to continue, because just to briefly explain to people who are not familiar with the case. So please imagine, not like in your countries, this is a private company, yes, but you can hear on a leaked conversation, the CEO of the biggest state-owned media company, Telecom, talking with a guy who is one of the directors, CEO of the sister company, which actually has certain control over these two independent, only two remaining independent televisions in Serbia, cable televisions, which means that they are not having circulation in Serbia. Also bear this in mind, only 30%. Okay, so it means this guy is talking to him and saying, Vučić is upset. You know, I know that Vučić is upset, but I will sack this editor. This is what the guy said. And the guy is, I don't know, British or something. He's a, you know, or European anyway. So you understand, this is what is happening. And just to have another picture in front of your eyes, the rest of the media outlets in our country are like what we called in ex-Yugoslavia, you know, like, you know, factory newspapers. You have in different colors, with different, you know, journalists, with different anchors, if you like, but the same lines, absolutely the same lines. Big leader Alexander Vučić, father of the nation, yet another success, evil West, you know, colored revolution, pouring money, paying students to do the revolution, to destroy Serbia, not him, Serbia. This is what we have. And then you have the line of China, the line of Ukrainian war on the Russian side, the line of everything, huge overall anti-Western vocabulary everywhere. So this is what they are trying to do with the two remaining cable television with limited circulation. And this is something that we believe Brussels should react, but not only react in public conversations with him and his regime, which I know they do, but publicly. Not privately, but publicly. In few days, you will have Madam Ana Brnabić coming to Brussels. She likes to follow our footsteps, okay? So she's the speaker of our parliament, the former prime minister of Serbia, and one of the closest Vučić cronies and a walking calamity, okay? So she will come to Brussels to give you yet another lip service. We are absolutely determined for reforms in European path. Rubbish. Okay? So let's call the spade a spade. This is what, when they say, what the citizens of Serbia, this is what we expect. Stop pretending that this guy is growing to be nothing more than Lukashenko without mustache, okay? So this is happening in soft valley of Europe. This is you. That's why we need the day after, figuratively speaking, not literally, but we need a special prosecutor with its own police for the high corruption of state functionaries. We need a law on the background of property, like in Italy, that the property would be seized. We need also to understand that it's not freedom to hate. It's not freedom to destroy other people's freedoms. It's not freedom to pour rubbish and toxicity on the viewers from controlled media. And in the same afternoon, you have a meeting with Kaja Kallas and Marta Kos. The same afternoon. On 10 a.m., you're saying that they're, I don't know, Illuminati, bunch of, devil worshippers who are trying to organize a bloody revolution against Serbia. And in the 2 p.m., you're meeting them. And he's saying to them, these are things I have to say because of the, public, but actually, no, actually nothing. This is what we are pleading the Commission to understand. We understand that there is a growth plan, there are nice documents, the strategies. We have a lot of strategies, by the way, nice papers. None of these things actually exist in reality. You understand, this is not Harry Potter anymore. This is real life and people. There is blood on our streets. Secretary General of our party was beaten by 5 thugs with iron bars a few days ago. He's an MP and Secretary General, member of the Parliament. Do you think that there was any coverage on controlled media? Zero. Any reaction from the Speaker of the Parliament, Madam Brnabić, walking calamity, she would come here? Zero. Zero. Can you imagine, I don't know, French, Belgium MP being beaten in the street by, people with hoods and covered faces from the ruling party? Obviously. They didn't beat him because they didn't like his T-shirt. I was almost murdered in 2018 myself in Kruševac, although my attackers had knuckle dusters, if you know what it is. And I literally escaped that. I didn't even see them. They attacked me from behind. Of course, members of the Serbian Progressive. Of course, close to his business people. You understand? This is what is happening right now. And I actually like your question, and I like your comment There are things that can be done, but please, sorry for maybe being too extensive, but I like the questions, obviously. I think that bureaucratic wording and messages, things like integration, growth plan, are not things that will seize attention of anybody anymore. You understand? This is far more serious. People need to see the values of European Union much more than some really well-developed strategies that most people in our country believe that are connected with corruption. And also, this is a big problem for you because these are the taxpayers' money of European Union. And there is also nice evidence concerning this money being misused by the Vučić government. So you understand why we have a problem, PR problem as well, because our voters are pro-EU voters. What should we tell them, Zdravko and myself? What should we tell our voters? Oh, it will be great and it will happen just in 5 minutes from now. Just give us, people see discrepancy between what we are preaching for years and what is actually happening here. Thank you.
Dragana.
Yes, if I can just add to this, how not to lose this generation, how to win it back. It's actually there. It just didn't connect the dots of what it wants with the Europe. So what is the problem? The EU has to step out of its stabilocracy comfort zone and speak more directly to the citizens instead of only to the governments and to the regime. We've been repeating this over and over again, and I'll be very happy to do it again for you. This is something that did not yield results. It has fed cynicism and sort of brought the EU itself into its own hypocrisy trap. And this is something that it's going to be even more and more dangerous coming out of with all these new visits coming up. The young generation does not understand the technical aspects, the technocratic aspects, and everything that us who are in this business know. So they need to be spoken in their own language to understand it better. So instead of preaching the regular EU gospel that we were doing until now, we have to talk to them in a language of convergence, in the language of cohesion, and in the language of change. Not only reforms, because we're in reforms up to here, we need change. Because the reforms is another term that has been severely misused in the place where I come from. Usually just for, administrative justification and does not yielding needed changes on the ground in the lives of the citizens. What the citizens and youngsters want, they want tangible things. They want things that they can feel. I can tell you just 2 examples. In 2009, after getting the visa regime liberalization, between 75 and 80% of Serbia's population was pro-EU. Now half of the population is against. Close to 30% is not sure, and the rest is minorities, maybe 4. When we were sending out students to the European countries on, how would I say, connected road trip to the various universities living on campuses and everything, we called it a journey to Europe. They were coming back to Serbia almost reborn because they saw it, they felt it. Here, they hear it somehow, but they don't feel it today. Another point, public messages, media with national broadcasting. EU is very little represented there, and if it is, it's mostly in technical manner and understandable to some of the intellectual elites in larger cities, but not the rest of the population, especially out of the urban areas. Messages from the political top. They're not proper. They're just, they need to be focused on Serbia as a European nation, on being where it belongs. Right now, our messages are we're on the European path, the EU doesn't want us, the European countries are promoting the colored revolution and destabilizing Serbia. So these are just a few aspects of how things can be improved. I'll be more than glad to share more info with you.
Thank you very much. On the question on the constitutional ABC, it was the cohabitation which would mature after elections.
Something. If we have a government that it is not controlled by current president, and if we don't have early presidential elections, it means that current president who doesn't obey constitution should obey a constitution if government is not his government. So if he follows constitution, there is something like 12, I think, responsibilities. More of them are protocol kind of responsibilities. So in that case, it would be more or less okay. Of course, nothing is okay in Serbia still as Vučić is there. But if he is embedded in constitutional responsibilities, it would be much easier to breathe in Serbia.
Thank you very much. I know there's a question there on the side still. Looking at this side of the room still.
Thank you. My name is Alexandros. I work for the European Parliament. I'm wondering whether you're not overestimating what EU pressure could do to this government. So even if we were more critical at the presidency level, if some things are frozen, chapters, clusters, money even, yes, we would be better with our conscience, and your morale would be better for the pro-European forces. But what kind of pressure what would that lead to? Yes, you don't invite for X summit or whatever, but are you not overestimating that kind of pressure to have the result that you want? And are you not underestimating the international factor of Trump, China, Putin, and you mentioned Slovakia, Hungary, and friends within the member states yourself? I don't want to bring bad news, but there is worse news. Not to mention a lot of friends of the current president in the European Parliament on the right of the hemicycle. So just putting that out there.
You're with the parliamentary administration.
I'm with the administration,
okay.
Yes. And just to say that nothing is more European than what some of the courageous people in the streets are doing. So you're not coming back. It's the most European thing that there is. So just keep doing it.
Okay, thank you. Lady all the way in the back. This is your
Thank
last
you. My name is Natalie. I'm PhD candidate at Maastricht University. I'll try to narrow down my question specifically to the energy policy. I would be interested to hear your assessment on the role you think that energy policy in Serbia plays in consolidation of power with Vučić, namely also dependence on the Russian oil. And the second part of that question is, do you think that EU is doing enough actually to incentivize and to promote a reduction of dependency of Serbia and Russian oil? And we know that currently the Serbian national company is on the US sanctions list, facing the waivers, the sixth one already, from this administration, but it has not made its way to the EU conditionality. So it has not been on the agenda of the EU to actually impact the Russian ownership of the Serbian energy companies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we turn it back to our speakers, perhaps in reverse order, if that's okay. We have 5 minutes left, so please keep it short.
I just wanted to reflect on your question on the possible consequences on cutting the EU funds and everything. Of course, this could, how would I say, have some effect. But as a representative of the civil society, I have to admit that I have a huge moral dilemma of not being able to promote the funds that are supposed to help my own people. But I do want to advise perhaps using sanctions on those funds that are used for political promotion by the regime, not cutting off the funds for schools, hospitals, and the ones that are felt directly among the citizens, but the ones that are felt among the political elites. So I allow myself this moral dilemma, so perhaps this can help you drum out some approaches a bit better.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, I have a difficulty to understand actually your question. Sorry, sir, because if I understood well, you're saying that we should not, I don't know, amplify or glorify possible measures or underestimate them. I didn't get it actually, but it's sad for me to say, but it's really about you. European Parliament is playing a noble role. And I'm really picking my words here. You, as an institution, have defended the clean cheek of European face. And it will not be forgotten. Because you spoke when others were silent. There were people elected by your citizens, probably most of them with other concerns and worries. We understand what is happening on our continent. We are not detached from it. But you spoke valiantly about this struggle of Serbian people and this attempt to finally reach normality, democracy, and freedom in our country. So I really single out your institution because you're doing a great job. And I understand the administration of EU cannot simply, it's not the nature of you in the Commission to speak like that. But at least we should understand what are the fundamentals on which you are standing together. And these fundamentals are something that we want to contribute. We don't want to come to the kids' table. We want to be in our family as we should and as we always were. Like our neighbors, let's say Romanians, Bulgarians, Croats, others. But the freedom will be gained by ourselves. Nobody, and I hope this is the answer to your question, nobody will do our job and our homework. We will do it for ourselves, and we will cherish that freedom so much that we will not owe it to anybody. It will be only ours. I think it's sweeter that way. On the other side, I think that, forgive me, I think lady in the maybe last row, I'm not sure, talked about, I will just make one comment. It's not about oil, it's about gas. So that's one thing. But of course, it's a powerful tool because Vučić gave two messages from Beijing. One message is against the opposition, of course, and the other one is about gas, an arrangement with Putin. So you understand, it's really important for our people to have accessibility for the cheapest possible price anywhere. And diversification of our energy supplies is probably something that will be top priority of any future government after Vučić, because we simply need a pipe to, to get into. So right now, situation is such that we don't have too much alternatives yet. But we need to work on it like other European nations did. And what was the third? Forgive me. Can somebody help me? That was, yeah, thank you.
Regarding energy, that's not the thing that I would blame so much Vučić. Our dependence on Russian gas and maybe oil, it's not something that it's a result of his politics. That's something that's there. Not only in Serbia, there are a few other regional countries, including Hungary, and I don't know who else, from Slovakia. So you cannot change that immediately. So diversification is easy to say, but to implement it takes time, it takes money. I believe that there is much bigger problem in our energy sector, that's corruption. And that corruption is much more linked with renewables than with conventional energy sector. And we have some American companies actually with some successful Serbs working for them who are involved in renewable business in Serbia, which should be carefully examined what's happening there. What really Europeans can do? Actually, there are a few steps in good direction. I appreciate how Marta Kos is what she said when she arrived in Belgrade, and the fact that she had meeting with opposition very open, that she had very open statement when she said everything that students are asking, that's the same what Europeans are, what EU is asking. That's new. We appreciate that. That's a step in the right direction, but now things are moving very fast. I'll mention something that could be done if things continue like this. I believe that's already time to think about a kind of personalized sanctions towards people who are responsible for use brutal force on civilians and students. I'm talking about police commanders, about people who are really responsible. That's, as I said, personalized sanctions that should be banned to enter European Union. It can work. That's something that could be done. I don't know if it is responsibility of EU administration or country administration, but it can work. We have experience how it could be painful. Because if things are continue as it is going now, is going to be disaster for sure. But my concluding remark is that there is, Vučić is not able to deliver anything else in Serbia. As I said, there is no big difference between, as Borko said, between him and Lukashenko. That's one thing. Second, there is credible alternative in Serbia for Vučić. I'm not talking about anybody personally, I'm talking about situation in society. Serbia will drive towards European Union if Vučić and his regime are not there. And third, time is running. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all three of you. Things are in fast developments as we see. We will certainly keep on following them here at CEPS, both from a local perspective as well as the European Union's perspective. We hope to also get a positive answer from the mission here of Serbia to the European Union to participate in our next closed-door event to discuss these very issues. We're still waiting for an answer, so hereby an appeal. We look forward to welcoming you back here at CEPS at hopefully an auspicious moment where indeed we can see that the stars around the European integration project align both from an acceding point of view as well as from an enlarging point of view. So thank you very much on behalf of the entire audience for coming to Brussels and sharing your views.